Hey, Sun here. In today's episode, I want to talk about app privacy on the App Store, so the Apple iOS App Store, and how to kind of go about evaluating if an app is privacy conscious or not, and what are the trade offs of using free apps, which more often than not are actually tracking a lot of what we do and have pretty privacy invasive policies. So, long story short, my mom always uses this Decibel app. She's a teacher and she wants to know in the classroom how loud things are, if it's bad for the ears of the students. And she actually uses this to show the students how high it is. And that kind of gives them a reason to understand why they need to be a little more quiet. And that's actually quite useful. I recently had a kid, as most of you probably know by now, and I needed a way to assess if the sound level in my studio was harmful for the baby. And TLDR, anything under 60 decibels is fine, but I needed an app for this. And first thing that came to mind is, well, I'll go and get this app that my mom has. So essentially, if you go here on iOS and you just type decibel meter, look at the choices here. You know, a bunch of them have a lot of ratings. This one here has 3,500 decibel dB. You look at it, looks pretty solid. And then, so that's the one that my mom uses. So what do we usually do? I was going to use the same one. But when I went down into the app privacy settings, and by the way, I'm also an Apple developer, so I'll explain how that actually works behind the scenes in a moment in the context of how Superback for operators is being developed. But data linked to you, user content, I guess that means that any content that isn't, derived or uploaded to this app might be used by the developer. And what that means essentially is anything that you're recording while doing a sound test can be used by the developer. It doesn't mean that they will, but I'm guessing that's what it means. And then data not linked to you, health and fitness, location, usage data, purchases, identifiers, diagnostics. That is completely ridiculously insane. That is way too much information for an app that doesn't even need to connect to the internet in the first place to work. So let's contrast this to Proton Mail, an app that we use for doing email. That's the one that I personally use myself and for Superbacked. By the way, for Superbacked, if you need privacy, that's its own episode, by the way. But yeah, if you go into Proton Mail and then you go down there and you look at the same thing, you'll see that the only data that this is collecting is diagnostics. And that usually means some form of analytics if the app crashes and stuff like this. Now on macOS, thankfully, there's something called Little Snitch, which I use to block most of this analytics for apps that I trust. Because I don't want them calling home at all. Most good apps have a way of disabling this. I'm not sure if Proton Mail has this on iOS, but nonetheless. Now, if we go back to this Decibel app, what I did essentially, and that's what I always recommend. So first things first, I looked at that privacy thing in the App Store, and that really freaked me out. But the next step when you want to dig a bit deeper is have a look at the privacy policy. So what I did is I visited the website of this app developer, and I always try to wonder who's developing this app, under which jurisdiction is it developed, what are the privacy, what's the privacy legislation wherever that app is developed, and where the data might be stored. So looking at this specific app, if you go into the privacy policy, now you start seeing why a lot of data is collected. So they're using, according to this, Google Analytics, Google Fonts, so a bunch of Google stuff, which means this app is calling Google a lot. And I mean, I'm guessing this here is for the website itself. It's hard to tell what's for the website, what's for the app. But then I also see that the owner and data collector or controller is a developer out of Russia. Now, I have absolutely nothing specifically against people in Russia or developers per se, but I definitely have something against privacy legislation in Russia. Hey, Son of the Future editing this. As I'm editing this, I'm realizing that Canada, the United States, are not necessarily much better. I guess the point that I was trying to drive home is one should be aware of those points where the data is stored, where the developer is located. Is the company based out of a country that perhaps for any reason that's personal to you doesn't really suit your liking? That's what I meant. The state of the world right now is kind of crazy. Even countries such as Switzerland, where ProtonMail is located, are starting to kind of fight cryptography. So anyways, back to the episode. And I'm just very uncomfortable with the idea that an app could have potential access to all of that. Now, it's always worth putting in a little bit of extra effort when we're looking to solve a problem with tech. For instance, I needed a decibel meter to know if the sound coming out of my studio was below 60 decibels where the ears of my kid are located in the room. And thankfully, there's an app for this called NIOSH. I don't know what the hell that means. Interesting, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Anyways, long story short, this is an app developed by the American government. And it's an app that's designed for people at their workplace to be able to assess noise levels and report unhealthy noise levels. Now, if we go back on the App Store, NIOSH, and we look at that app in comparison to this other one, what we quickly realize is that, first things first, it has decent ratings. We know who the developer is. We know what governance is behind it. Sorry, baby. I guess he wants to be part of the episode. So what we quickly realize here is that there's no data being collected at all. And that is very, very interesting. And the app has as much value for me as the user as the other one. And I know that the ears of this little one are going to be fine. Okay, now something that you may be asking is, that's all good and well, but what if people report that they're not collecting anything when in reality they are? So that's where me being a developer on the Apple platform comes into play. So I'm the creator of Superbacked, and secret management app that's used to back up sensitive data. And by the way, we track absolutely nothing on our users, both on the user's end and on the operator end. But we're currently developing an app called Superbacked for Operators that is going to run on hardened iPads for attorneys and notaries to be able to import an encrypted version of user blocks. And I mean, that's going to make its way to its own episode, by the way. But when you look here at requirements on our end as developers on the Apple side, we have to provide a privacy policy, and we also have to very specifically say what we're collecting. And all apps submitted to the App Store are vetted by Apple, and all apps are vetted by Apple. And if an app is saying that it doesn't collect anything, but it really does, it's just going to be refused by Apple. Hey, it's okay. It's going to be refused. So they're going to reject the app from the App Store, and voila. So, I mean, essentially, Apple has a really strict way of making sure that developers follow those policies. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. As you can see, I have other things to attend to, but hopefully that was helpful in kind of figuring out how to assess apps